Welcome to the iNetrepreneur Radio Show. We are so honored to bring you your host, the ultimate celebritypreneur, connecting businesses and celebrities worldwide. Winner of the Networking Organization of the Year, best-selling author, magazine publisher, trainer, and owner and founder of Network Together and the iNetrepreneur Media Network for magazines, TV, and radio network. We're excited to bring you your host, Mr. Robert W. Jones.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. I am glad you're here celebrating the Thursday with us. It's the day before the end of the week, the Friday. And, actually, Thursdays of all days of the week are my favorite day of the week. It's my favorite day of the week because I actually get out from behind whatever I'm doing and I get to speak with you, the audience. And today, I'm excited that we have Justin James, Michelle Malo, and Jet Buntawan on our show today. And today's show is going to be your mission, your message, and your world. But I want to talk about a few things before we get into the show. I just want to make sure that I always, pimp the show out. You can find us at YouTube at iNetrepreneur Radio, YouTube at iNetrepreneur Radio. Now, I understand a lot of people always ask me, it's like, that's like such a complicated way of spelling anything. And I said, yes, I agree, but it makes us talk about it. And once you do spell it, you will never forget how to spell iNetrepreneur again. There's also another way to get to the radio. You can go to networktogether.net and click on the YouTube tab, and that will take you straight to the channel. Also, like us on Facebook. We're at facebook.com/iNetrepreneur Radio as well. You can subscribe there, like us, give us comments, give us shouts and whatnot. So I also want to mention that you can go to ntevents.net. That's ntevents.net for our academy classes, events, networking, meetings, and more. So ntevents.net for over 1,000 meetings and events each and every year. I also want to say one other thing. We just got through, and you see this book back here, it's called The Art of Connection. The Art of Connection was an international bestseller in the physical print form 3 times, and it was a blessing that happened. I mean, it started out with just a little concept where I was going to take some of my quotes and musings over the years I was in networking, and I was going to take that out and kind of deliver it to our members themselves to kind of give them some hope and inspiration, support because of what was going on with COVID. All of a sudden, some of the members started liking it, and they're like, well, why don't you turn it into a book? And I said, sure. What happened was I went home and I told my wife, hey, I got this idea for a book. The members think it's really great. And my wife's like, who wants to read 365 quotes of Robert Jones? And after I picked up my ego and I brought it up the ground, I said, what do you mean? And she's like, oh, I didn't mean it like that, honey. I'm not saying what you're saying is not valuable. She's like, but why don't you bring as many entrepreneurs, business owners, and influencers with you? And, we started doing that, and all of a sudden, we ended up having the book. We had partners in 12 different countries and 27 different states. And so we just got through the Art of Connection Summit. We had 177 attendees. And I'm here right now to let everyone know on September 21st of this year, we're going to have our next major event, the Art of Connection Summit. So we're really excited about that, and I just want to let you know and be first, everyone who's here, to know that. So let's get on with our show, and I'm going to bring on Jet. Hey, Jet, how are you doing, man?
I'm great. Thank you for having me, Robert.
I'm glad you're here today. We get to chat a little bit now and then. I mean, after a chapter meeting, before a chapter meeting, sometimes I'll poke fun of you, but one thing that really stands out about you, and I just want everyone out there to kind of know is, you look at a business almost like you would look at a family member. And what I mean is, it's like with a family member, you have a certain amount of care, you have a certain amount of bond, you have a certain amount of interest. It's like you always want to take, a lot of understanding when it comes to them. And it's almost like you greet people like you've always known them. And I found that with you. And I know that we're looking at doing some collaborations on into the future. But I want you to know that, because sometimes when we think of payment processors, and I just want to put this out there first, we don't actually think of someone who's always necessarily warm and fuzzy, let alone, being a part of the family. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, I totally agree. And that is one of the things that I wanted to change the perception to business owners, especially as I meet them and get to know them, that, what I do, especially with a company like Spot On, we don't just go in there and just try to, okay, we're going to set you up with a credit card reader, terminal, and we're out. A lot of my clients text me, email me, call me all the time just to find out about this little thing, and then, hey, this hasn't happened. And I've always thought, what other company or what other person actually in my line of business, how many people actually reach out back to their customers and go, hey, I'm going to sit down with you. We're going to do a Zoom call for an hour and a half and make sure you understand everything that's going on with your terminal, with your software. And I think the way that Spot On is set up with all of that, because it's terminal software, all these different things that, loyalty and online ordering, QR codes. When you start to have a company that does all that, it makes it so that, I can't sign up someone and just leave them there, go, this is probably going to take them weeks to understand. And let's just try to expedite that to make it so that, okay, I'm going to be with you for the next 3-4 days. I'm going to try to get you through as much as possible so you can feel comfortable. And I leave, you need me, call me, text me, I'm there for you. And I have clients all over the country that go through this. They're always like, well,
Yeah.
are you going to be there? And then, yeah, 100%. And I've been on vacation, or quote unquote vacation, and been on a FaceTime call with a client, try to explain to them why something is not working. And they're like, oh, that was great. And I've never told them, but I was like, you know what? That's part of what I'm there for. I want you to feel comfortable after I leave, that I'm going to be there for you until you're gone from, my hands.
But see, and that's why I really wanted to start out with you on the show with this, because the first segment we're talking about mission. And when I think of mission, and maybe Michelle and I will talk a little bit about it, in her segment, I think that there's a drive in a mission, there's a direction in the mission, there is a pace, etc. But I also think that in any company, they can be systems driven, they can be personality driven, and they can actually be, documented driven. What is the historical footprint that is seen from both, and I want to take a little bit back, because as we get older, at least most of us, we want to align and we want to develop our clarity, with the personalities and the systems that we align with. And that's why I believe that you chose Spot On. But, going back, you were either born with all of this, or you had a certain nurture as you grew up that developed this over time. Tell us a little bit about your childhood, and maybe someone who stands out in your life, who kind of set the precedent on what you are utilizing actually in today's business.
Yes, that's a great question. I grew up in New York City, and we moved to New Jersey with a single mother, just my sister and I with my mom. And I always felt that the sacrifices she had to make to get us, in New York City in the late 70s, 80s, and then growing up in the 90s, a single mom through that time in a major city that fought through everything, it's amazing. I look back and there's moments I'm like, man, I can barely take care of myself. I couldn't imagine having two other kids running around. And I think I always said that, and my sister and I have talked about this, that we shouldn't have been the people we are today. I think there were a lot of avenues that we could have just went, okay, we're going to give up. We're going to get into this. We can get into this, fall apart. And we always said that our mom's love beat all of that. So I always think that that's what I want to carry on. That piece of me always carries on. When I see someone, you meet these business owners that are beaten up, like they're emotionally, mentally, physically beaten up, restaurant owners, retail store owners. They've been doing it for years, 15, 20 years, and they're just tired and worn out. And imagine if someone comes in there and goes, hey, you don't have to do this alone. You have someone, I can't get you through everything, but at least I can take maybe 10, 15% off of you so that I can start to help you get the business go in the right direction, maybe save some money, be able to give you some things that help you grow your business. So when you start to put all those together, and I've had people thank me, there's like, wherever you go, I'm going to go, because no one's ever done that for me. And when I ask them to think about those other businesses that they're, or vendors that they work with, try to find those other people that do that too. If you, sometimes paying a little bit more to get those type of personalities, a business runs on, I always think of it, it's like a pyramid, right? Like all these things, if the pyramid starts to fall apart at the bottom, it's going to collapse. So you want to build it so that it grows and gets stronger. And you're like, well, look, my employees are great. These vendors that come, they're on time. They respond back when I need them, and everything is working in unison to make this business grow.
Well, but carrying that through, here's the thing. You are in a very system-oriented business field. I mean, you are. I mean, it in many ways it's technology, dollars and cents.
Right.
There's not a lot. Once it's set, it's normally set. It's almost like you bequeath a system on, another. So you have to strive in certain ways that others don't. And I mean strive. So, what I mean by that is, like, you're the first person that actually made me actually care about payment processing. I know that sounds crazy, because quite frankly,
that's a big sentence. I mean,
yes, I just want to save some darn money, man. I just don't want to pay the, some corporation. But here's the thing. I'm going to throw out this word. You came to me not from the payment processing time. You actually came from me like, what do you want to accomplish in your business? What is the mission of the iNetrepreneur Network? Why do you do the things you do? Because if I understand what you do better, then I can actually not only help you through my systems, I'm going to be the type of guy that's going to help you through how I care. See, there's the difference. And that because most people, once they sell the system, you know what happens to them?
Yeah, they're gone. And Robert, that is part of the I don't know, I guess I feel like a guilt when someone signs up with me, because when someone is, I feel like I need to be there for them. And it doesn't matter if you're a business that sells seasonally, sells like candles, or you're a franchise business. I have all sorts of businesses underneath my belt, but every single one of them, if they were to call me at 6 o'clock in the morning, which they have, I've gone back and like, hey, what do you need right now? I'll wake up and I feel like they signed up for me, right? At the end of the day, there's 40 different companies out there. They can sign up for merchant processing, but they signed up for me because they trusted something in me. So I want them to feel like that was a right choice. And a lot of times when someone just, I hear it all the time, people just leave and they're like, I've never spoken to this person in 4 years. I was like, well, don't you feel like you want to connect with someone that will be there for you,
Well, and here's the other thing, so that's care. The second thing, and see, I look at mission, somewhat differently, because this is what's important. You deliver the mission in the way that you handle your business. And here's another thing, whether it's by strategy or whether it's your innate ability, one of the things that really kind of sold me, let's say, or really, made me want to connect is you said, look, I know the businesses that, this is you. I know that the businesses that I serve, aren't as, it's not about their processor. It's about, are they staying in business? Are they still getting clients? Are they still making connections? And, what you were telling me is, hey, if I'm helping be a part of your business, almost like service added, and I can refer you clients, or I can refer you people, or I can solve problems, or I can, hey, if I can do those things too, I mean, it becomes more, because the success of my business, does it benefit you? I'm sure somewhere it does. But the thing is for a lot of businesses out there that, they're retooling, they're retweaking, they're outsourcing, they're insourcing, they're upsourcing, they're coupling, they're doing all these things. I felt like right away you understand a business only works if they remain in business.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, really, it only works if they remain in business, and that's what you came across. You're like, hey, yeah, hey, do I want your business? And absolutely. But I'm in business to help your business also stay in business. And to me, that resonated with my mission because in the Entrepreneur Network, it's my business to help find people who need to learn, or learn how to earn. And that's the three categories. It's the three seats. We're at least at one of them. We're always at least at one of them. Quite frankly, we should be in all three. We should be learning, earning, and learning how to earn. And that's what I think that you strive to do when you sit down, about a mission, so that's two. So, we have two things that you do, really well there. And three, I think every mission should have this as well. I don't care if you're selling inkjet cartridges or you're putting tilapia, on a plate, serving it at a restaurant. The thing that you do in your mission really well is you do follow-up. You are a master of follow-up. And I really appreciate about you that. So, isn't it amazing how fast the time in a segment goes by? But tell us one thing before you go, and tell us like one thing that you see right now that a business could do, to just create success just right now, immediately.
I think businesses right now need to understand the power of connecting their business with social media, and any which way or form that is, because I think people have kind of used that as a tool now, where before it was just, hey, we're just letting you know we're around. This is like there are customers, clients that are now looking to whoever they follow to go, are you open? What are you doing? What are you serving? What's the difference that you're doing from another company? So use that tool as much as you can, because it will getting 50 new followers and then a percentage drop off, maybe 5 of those show up at your door and then start to purchase something. Those now go to referrals. They lead into retention customers. So that little post or posts over time can mean such a big difference. So that's my advice.
Yeah, and I'm going to expand on that just really quickly. I say that we're going, because I've been in the web for a long time. I mean, social media actually used to be called, Web 2.0, and that was only because it wasn't like a brochure that you could visit, by going to a URL. Web 2.0 meant that we could interact together. But I think we're getting past, the interaction. I think we're actually getting to delivery.
Right.
It's really deliver media. It's like, are you delivering the media that I want in the time that I want it? Because I'm an impatient person, and if you don't, then I get to go somewhere else for someone who will serve me, in a ready-made time frame, and that time frame is actually mine.
Right.
So I love that you brought up that point. So tell us, how the best ways that we can get a hold of you, Jet. I have your information going, but are there any other ways?
Yeah, you can go to my website, jetgobusinesssolutions.com. Phone number is on there, 818-212-3130, or my email on there, jetgobusiness@gmail.com as well.
So, and how's the weather out there in San Diego right now?
It's a little bit cloudy, but I will never complain.
All right. Well, it is so great to have you on the show today. I mean, let's come back. Let's have some more chats. I look forward to doing, some more business with you, and I appreciate, all that you do for the Network Together community.
Thank you, Robert. Thank you for having me.
You bet.
Network Together. It's all about connections. Expand your sphere of influence. Build relationships. Be part of something bigger. Be part of Network Together.
I just want to thank Jet Buntawan for being on the show with me today. And, back here, I have this ready-made home office, and COVID kind of displaced me. I actually had an office, and I'm one of those type of people that I really actually love working out of an office. I am an office geek. I love everything about it. I love walking down the hall, making my coffee, going out to a balcony, going to a vending machine and getting those Giordari little pretzels things and stuff like that as I eat them with my carrot sticks, trying to to remain very healthy. But I just thought I'd let you know, COVID has changed so many things, and for a lot of you that don't know, the Entrepreneur Network, in a 3-day time frame, went from an all in-person to an all virtual world. So the power of connecting digitally, I don't think it's ever been so pressing as we have now. Thanks again, Jet, for being on our show. Our next guest is Michelle Malo. Michelle Malo, how are you doing, Michelle?
I am wonderful. How are you, my dear?
I am doing wonderful as well. I am glad you're on this show, and I teased you a little bit before. I call it our digital green room, so we all get to kind of chit chat with each other before we get on air. And I'm like, I started looking back, and I'm like, God, when did I meet her? I was like, wow, over 3 years ago, and my goodness, how have time flown, and how have things changed, right?
Unbelievable. My whole world's upside down in a good way. Different perspective.
Absolutely. And I remember, the first few times that we got to talk, what I really liked about you is you didn't really carry a lot of moats and boundaries around you. We got to go to like a little, I still remember it, like a little sandwich shop, and we ordered some things, and we sat down, and we just had a discussion, just a conversation. And what I remember about that was you kind of remind me of me in certain ways. You carry about the profit, but you care about the people even more.
Absolutely.
And that's what I feel. Just like with Jet, the big word for the day is care. And he cares, and there's a feeling that it's like actually out from him, and it's like, this guy is no regular merchant processor type of guy, right?
100%, yes.
And I felt the same way with you. I didn't feel like you were really, your values were different. You felt more like, hey, I want to understand your business like I'm a part of the family business. And I want to say that again. I want to understand your business like I'm a part of the family business. And, one of the things that, I want to talk about with you is, messaging. And just like and people don't think about, Michelle, I know they don't, because I see it all the time, because
Right.
too many of us are clones. But if you really look at it, every family in a way has its own language.
That's right. 100%.
You know it?
Yes.
I tell you what, Jet and his sibling and his mom in New York City, they developed their own language. And then sometimes I don't think that we think about that when we think about brand, and we think about our divisions, and we think about, how we want to portray. Sometimes I feel like we worship the balance sheet, but we don't worship the life sheet. And
Right.
and I think that you carry that in you. And so, in the same way that, I did with Jet, I want to learn a little bit about your background. Who are like a person or people in your lives that kind of instilled those values in you for you to look at business with your own unique take?
Well, I appreciate, first of all, I'm so excited we're finally connecting. Like I said,
Yep.
so much has changed, and thus the change CEO, because you have to embrace that. And it took a bit for me to really do that, because I was in corporate for over 25 years, Kraft and Kellogg's. I ran marketing for Barilla Pasta, but I'm going to go into the Wayback Machine to my first job out of college. And it was at Dunkin' Donuts. Now, I was a marketing person. I wasn't actually making coffee, even though I know how. But my first boss, Kathy Nowicki, changed my life. We called her Big Red, okay? And she was tough. But she was tough as a family, like a mom figure. So even though, again, I came out of college, I was like 24 years old from Nebraska, as we talked about. And she really instilled the idea of branding and paying your dues, but also that teaching and nurturing. So even though you might not have done it right the first time, she showed you what it was to be successful and to care about people and to care about our franchisees. And it's so funny because we were talking about how many years it's been since I was at that job, but just what's so crazy is that I actually have a meeting with her son. Her son was 7 years old, and
Oh
he's
my
looking
goodness.
at careers, and he's married, and the fact that now she's trusting me with someone that's her son, off of someone, we were selling donuts and ice cream and all these different things. I've always remembered that, and she's always just kept me with all the turbulence and good times throughout life. She was always there, and I carry, like I said, I've always carried that with me, and all her little sayings.
Yeah, and again, that goes back to the language. It's developing a language that you can take with you like a toolkit, and in any given situation, you can bring out a different tool to handle any given situation. And I love that, about you, because when I see you talk, you furl here a little bit, and then you like answer. And I've noticed that. I believe that probably some of the tools you're bringing out from those years of experience, because what she did is you were able to have that one lucky, in a way, mentor, and
Yes.
you were able to model off of that. But working for all these major corporations and all these brands, and they're always struggling to talk and make right with their audiences. What are some of the things that you learned that maybe smaller entrepreneurs can do, or maybe even better yet, what can we avoid as small entrepreneurs?
That is the $1 million question. And the biggest thing is you have to listen. Because I will tell you, so with all those manufacturers I worked for, I actually was in the hospitality segment. So I worked with restaurateurs, I worked with hotels, colleges, all these folks. And the big brand, Mama Bear, wants, it's all about, the brand essence, and it's all these things, but you're talking B2C or so yourself to a consumer who is cooking in their kitchen. Now I'm talking to someone who's feeding masses, right? So their needs and their pain points are going to be so much different. So you need to really understand what's keeping these folks up at night, so that you can be the solution. And just like Jet, I thought, oh man, maybe I need to call him for because he is so right, or at least team up with them for folks who need that when I work with new entrepreneurs, because folks really need to understand it's the people. They buy people they know, like, and trust. And if it's not about the pasta, it's not about your coaching, it's not about the merchants, it's not even about the network. It's really about that one-on-one understanding that you listened. I had a client earlier today. She's like, "Am I talking too fast?" Because I was quiet, which me is
Yeah.
weird, like a social setting. So
Right.
I said, "No,
Right.
you're not going too fast." I go, "I'm just listening." And also the brilliance of Zoom, or and being able to see folks, is I'm also picking up on your body language. I said, because I can tell when you light up and when something's bothering you. And so sometimes they don't match, and we want to really understand, so that I am serving her in the best way possible, to make sure that I don't miss the nuances, because the details, the nuances are really what make or break business. They make or break relationships, and all of that.
Yeah, well, and that's, and I'm a firm believer of this, and and agree or disagree with me, but I'm a firm believer that every level has a different conversation, just like every family has a different conversation. One of the things I learned when we had Mark Victor Hansen come into the iEntrepreneur Network magazine is, I learned that the conversations that he had and the success he's had it so long, it's very different from, the couplepreneur, because they had to come together as a need or necessity, or the solopreneur, or the COVID, or the, I got laid off, or I've been removed, or I've been displaced. The questions and the conversations are very different now than they were of people were uber successful and have maintained success for years. There's different conversations at every level, and I think sometimes when sales and marketing, sometimes if they don't sit down, they don't know the mission, they don't know the vision, they don't know the
Right.
family that they're serving, they can miss the mark rather quickly. Wouldn't that be?
Yeah, that's the absolute truth. Because again, in corporate, one of the biggest things I've made sure of is that I was on the road with my sales folks because I wanted to see and be in that chair across from the customer so that I understood exactly what they were needing from the customer's mouth. Because a lot of times these different functional groups are screaming at each other, right? They're talking at each other.
Mhm.
They're not listening to the need state of what they're trying to tell. Now, of course, there's numbers and the P&Ls, like we talked, like you did,
Mhm.
introed with, that I'm looking at from being in marketing and branding and the corporate level. But that doesn't matter if we're not actually meeting the need state of the customer and also our people who are at the front line. If you can make a true alliance with all those cross-functional groups, that's where success matters. That's where having the correct product match matters because you're listening, you're innovating, and you're always moving forward, not just pounding chests and trying to do an ego trip to each other about who's right, or we're going to do it my way or the highway. It literally is that collaboration. And right now, the empathy, because with the pivot, I do a lot of career counseling right now. And to your point about the levels, I have a lot of clients that will come to me successful their whole lives, rug pulled from them out of nowhere. Maybe not out of nowhere because it is COVID, things are happening, but they didn't see it coming. And I would say to them, I'm like, do you know what this means? I said, just because the rug was pulled out from under you means you can now buy a new rug.
Mhm.
Right? Then that conversation becomes different. And that's the same thing in corporate or small businesses. When things pivot or change, especially unexpectedly, that's when you have to listen even harder, have that communication strategy, that empathetic ear, so that you can really make a strategic decision that everyone's on board with. And that's when progress is made. And it's not a victim mentality, it becomes a success mentality.
Yeah, absolutely. And, and one of the biggest things I see I'm just going to keep going deeper in conversations because conversations are the message, quite frankly. They are. And, and what I mean by that is I see too many business owners and entrepreneurs and even influencers. What they do is they start to remove themselves from their conversation. And I'm like, no, 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 no. The reason why you ever existed was because of your conversations. The moment you start outsourcing your conversation is the moment you lose ownership of your own narrative. And I see that time after time after time again. And like even people ask me, why should I network? Why should I keep going to chapter meetings? And I'm like, because it keeps you in tune with the needs of a community.
That's
you know
Amen. Absolutely, amen. Because it's called personal branding for a reason, because it's personal.
right.
And if you and I talk to people when they're doing LinkedIn or social media, all the stuff. I said, if you're not letting people know, that's why I said I don't have a lot of walls, because I want you to know personally where I'm coming from, and that you can open up to me and trust me,
Mhm.
that we can have that personal conversation. And what you're putting out there, especially if you're job hunting right at this moment, is people know what they're going to get. Right? It's not your name and a business title. That I'm Michelle Malo and I'm in marketing at the time. No, it is, what is that headline? What is it? The one thing that you want people to grasp and understand, because then when they talk to you, either buying your product or having a conversation or whatever that is, they know exactly what they're getting, and it matches when they meet you. Because
Absolutely.
worst thing is when you're like, wow, on paper or on LinkedIn or on your conversations on YouTube or whatever that is, it's one thing. And then I actually sit to maybe do business with you and you're like, wow, that was a misrepresentation. I feel duped. And you
Yeah.
never want to do that.
I think of it this way. It just reminds me of the movies where that strapping athlete or that actor or actress, and you've just like loved them all these years, and they play all the famous wonderful roles, and finally you get that one day where you get to go there and you get to be there right with them. And then all of a sudden you're like, they are nothing like I ever thought they would be. And
Yeah.
and it's like a brand, a marketing matrix mismatch. I think is one of the things that is the worst thing that can happen, because I think it takes 100 times the amount of effort to gain back that little strand of trust if your message does not
Right.
mesh with your message doesn't mesh with the marketing. And tell us a little bit, because this is where I love your insights. Tell us a little bit about what are some things that you see that businesses do where it's so obvious to you. It's just like, look, you should be saying this, or you should be doing this, or you should change this. And you know what, just that one message to them, and their whole business changes. What are some of the little the tripwires that a lot of businesses who are emerging, what are some of the things that they do that they just trip on?
They do what they think they should be doing and what people want to hear, not what they need to hear or what's not in their zone of genius. Here is the biggest thing, especially with my new entrepreneurs. If it was easy, everybody would do it, right? Very cliche, but it's the truth. And I said, you got into this for a reason. I want you to dig very deep to really understand, if someone is Googling you at midnight because they are at wit's end and you're that answer, make sure you go in that with your full heart and your full, and your ears wide open. Because if you go in, I'm going to tell just a brief story, if that's okay. I had this woman come in after I was speaking at an event. She's like, can I speak with you? And me, I'm like, of course. And she just was at wit's end, like why her business wasn't working. And I said to her, I said, well, what do you do? Well, I like to help people make money. I said, that's great. Why? Right now we're going to get into that 7 degrees of why. Okay.
Yeah.
Deeper. And then I asked her the question about Google. I asked her, and what it basically came down to was she had a very tough personal life in terms of family and kiddos. She's been through the ringer and back, a lot of experience. And she shared that experience at church quite a bit and helped a lot of other women and gentlemen through that really rocky, horrible place that they were in, either to help save marriages or it's time to go, all of that stuff. But so I looked at her, I said, so we started that you wanted to help people make money. But what we're really finding is what everybody comes to and what gives you joy because you can help and serve is helping people with relationship problems within a Christian setting. Burst into tears. And she said, that is spot on. Why did it take 10 minutes for you to see that? And I've been working on this for over 5 years. I said, because you were doing, when you go to a lot of these networking things, you hear all about the money and the P&L and all that stuff, and the heart is taken out of it. I said, once you put your heart back into it and you start to listen to all the signals and all the people that are coming to you, that is your zone of genius. And you're so good at it, you don't even realize you're in that zone. So if you can build a business, and you can build a business because you're good at that, now it's just a matter of finding those folks at that pain point that you can take away. Don't do it because you feel like it's what I should. Do it because it's what you feel. And you can monetize any of that and get a network, get a mentor, all those folks to help you frame that a little bit. But I'm telling you, that's where most people tend to fail because they're just doing what they're told.
Yeah, and it goes back to I don't know if you know this, Michelle, but I say this so much of the time. I say you have to have your heart set before you can work on your mindset. And once you have your heart set and your mindset set, then you can really start driving your skill set, because it flows that way. And when I used to work for world-class athletes, believe me, they never were worried about the books. They were worried, man, can I do that last 400 meters? Can I cross the finish line? Can I do these things? It all comes from the heart. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. Tell us a little bit. I have your information scrolling across here. Tell us if there's any other ways that we can get a hold of you, if you have any offers.
Yes, absolutely. Because I'm a true believer that you got to meet people where they're at. Okay. So my programs or my coaching, what I do is called the success menus. Why? Because you need to be able to look through it so that you know exactly what you need. So what I always do is I offer up 2 free sessions. And you can sign up for those at themindsetmenu.com. Again, it's themindsetmenu.com. Get some calendar time, because the biggest thing for me is you've got to listen first and help people first, and then figure out where they're going and if I'm the best fit. And if not, that's why I'm in the networking group, right? So that I have other people, my board of directors of other folks that I can point you to if I'm not quite the right fit. But I want to at least listen and see what kind of help I can give and serve first. So again, themindsetmenu.com, 2 free 45-minute sessions. I would love to just chat with you and see how I can serve you.
I put your URL there with your name, Michelle. So hopefully we'll get some clicks on that. But I appreciate you so much for being on our show today. I mean, I think that, hey, we're going to have to do this again. I want to say one thing. It's great to have you in the Arizona area. I know there was a lot of time and trouble and travel to get here down from the cold, large city, what do they call it, the second city of Chicago. But we have you now, and you're not going back. So that's it. Case closed. Deal set. You're done.
That's it. We're neighbors, like it or not. So.
Well, good. Thank you so much for being on the show today with your insights, Michelle. I appreciate it so much.
I appreciate you so much. Thank you for having me.
Network together. It's all about connections. Expand your sphere of influence. Build relationships. Be part of something bigger. Be part of Network Together.
Bam. I mean, this is what the show's about. It's just about, it's about learning about the who and the why. I mean, we can go what all day long and how, but quite frankly, I pay for other people to do the how. I just want to know a little bit about their what, because if I know them and who they are, they will never let me down. I just am a firm believer of that. And, the older I get, I found that I put a lot of value on trusted relationships and trusted referrals. The bulk of my business is really, creating alliances, as Michelle said, and partnerships, and really finding out, deeper, more substantial conversations, both personal and professional. And, today in our last segment, we have Justin James coming onto the show, and we're going to be talking a little bit more about how to, look at the message and look at the mission of companies in a little bit different way. Hey, Justin, how are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you for having me on.
Hey, I am glad you're on today. I want to get your banner scrolling across here so the world can see who you are. Hey, Justin, you and I we've had a lot of conversations, probably over the last 2 years, and we really both have a great place, and that place is, how can we help business owners craft their mission, craft their message, and then actually get it amplified to the world. And I know that we'll talk a little bit about that today in a little bit, but like I did with Michelle and like I did with Jet, I want to understand a little bit about your background, maybe a little about your childhood, maybe about someone who really influenced you in your life, to kind of go forward on who you are today. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
On the influence inside, as cliche as it might sound, and my mother's really the one that was the influence. I always saw her growing up, running her own businesses, going to college.
So I was going to say, this is three moms in a row here. So we got 3 moms, and I'm going to throw my hat in there as well. I mean, I had a pretty amazing mom. So go moms.
Yeah, absolutely. It was always that inspiration to do better, always having that support, no matter what I wanted to do, always knowing that I had that backing there. And even if it was the craziest idea in the world, mom was still going to back you and give you the support that you needed.
And so, when you have, I always think when you have a great foundation, I always say some people have to dig themselves out of a hole. Some people are at the level, at sea level, and others, start from mountains. And I think for a lot of us, by having great support of moms and dads, uncles, aunts, A lot of us start off a lot higher, don't we, than we actually think we start off at. We don't sometimes, later in life, we might have the perspective that says, well, I didn't come from the richest family, or I didn't get the best breaks, or I didn't have this education, this skill set. But I think what really happens is when you still have that great foundation, at some time in life, that little epiphany light bulb goes off and you're able to launch yourself a little bit. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh, absolutely. It is amazing. The older I get, the more I look back and realize all those things that I wasn't paying attention to now have shaped the person that I become and the goals that I have in my life. But I never paid attention when I was younger, but thankfully those were there and really did shape me in the long run.
Now, I actually met you with Let Your Nerd Be Heard, and you were actually putting on a speaker training series and having people come in. And what attracted me to you was I loved it because in a certain way you had that feeling of, if I can do it, anyone can do it. And for much of my life, I felt the same way. I had a speech impediment. I had to go through 5 years of training myself. I was kind of mute when I was a kid. I said I wasn't clinically shy. I said when I was a child, I was criminally shy. It was so bad. And I really had to break through a lot of barriers to be able to even appear on a show, or to appear on a stage, or even to talk to the person next to me in a DMV line for all. And I like that about you, because you gave everyone a reason to go from here to there. And you rolled in that, but I know that you've evolved quite a bit. You've also been an avid supporter of business. Tell us some of the ways that you've helped business in your support.
So the big thing that I've really have morphed into is the virtual event world. With COVID, as you experienced, everything overnight really did go virtual, and some people were prepared, and a lot of people unfortunately weren't prepared for that. And so that's where I've been able to step in and help businesses figure out, how do we get our message out there? How do we still communicate and attract the clients that we were attracting before, while doing it over a virtual environment like Zoom or other platforms out there? And it's been great for businesses. We've run over 50 events, and they've made over $3 million on the client side. So it's still there if you know how to do it.
Well, and see, but here's the other thing. This is what really makes you different, Justin. And I'm going to bring Jet and I'm going to bring Michelle into this. What made you so different is you took the power of a person and their voice. See, really what you're doing is you work from the seed out. I've seen a lot of event companies, and they actually work from the out and they try to go in. But because of your time, helping people get the power and the courage of their voice, getting them to stand up in a room, getting them to stand up on stage, getting them to be on podcasts, getting them to be on radio shows, etc. You actually have an inside outside game that a lot of virtual event companies don't have. Do you see that as well? Maybe some of the advantages you have, because you've helped craft messages, you've had to learn missions, but now you're able to help them amplify it through technology. Tell us a little bit about that.
Oh, absolutely. It always starts inside out. If you're not able to communicate your passion so that everyone else comes along for the ride, then your message and your mission doesn't get out there. So you have to learn what is the ways to communicate that. What's the ways to craft the message? What's the way to have some stage presence and to turn what people see as a Zoom meeting into an actual experience? Because virtual events should be experience. When people say, oh, I've got Zoom fatigue, it's because you've had bad video experiences, because Zoom's just a video delivery platform. So you have to turn what you're delivering to clients into that experience. And the minute that you do, then people want to come work with you. They want to experience that and have fun along the way. And so it totally starts on the inside out so that you can bring your passion out to the world.
And Michelle was talking about that too. She brought to us, like, when you're on a show, or you're in Zoom. I mean, energy comes across. I mean, even in the phone. This is what's so crazy. I feel a lot of energy coming through the phone, but what I like about Zoom is I can measure engagement. Even so much better in Zoom, and it's so right. Is the MC bringing it? Are the speakers delivering? Is there enough, questions and audience participation and those type of engagements that doesn't create, exhaustion? To me, it should create enthusiasm. You know, right? I mean, that's what hey, look, you know me, Justin. I always say, if I'm going to learn, let's have fun, right? If I'm going to earn, let's have fun. No matter what, people like having fun. And last month when I was doing my metrics in Google, what was the number one word for entrepreneurs? Fun. It was all about how can we. It's always, but now we're searching for fun, even. So, so tell us a little bit more about when you're working with a client. You have to actually, for some of them, and I'm sure it's a little bit of a challenge. When you work with people who are used to a certain world, and Michelle kind of touched on this as well, they've had success for all these years. They're able to be in an audience and they can make dreams happen. And then all of a sudden they come over and all of a sudden they see themselves, they hear themselves, they're cognizant of themselves. The awareness is just amplified in such a way, and they bomb. How do you help the superstar successful people and say, look, we're not playing in that playground anymore. You're over here now, but I'm going to help you. What does that conversation look like?
It totally starts with mindset, because these people already know what they're doing, but then they get in the virtual world and they think everything's brand new. And the reality is it's not brand new. You've always been getting up in front of people. You've always been talking to people about the business. Now you're just doing it in a different medium. And so it's changing that mindset background to let them realize it is the same. It's just a matter of bringing the same expertise in the conversations that have made you successful, in believing that you can actually do it, and letting them know, what does it mean to make those experiences. So many people, when we talk about virtual, think it's all about tech. I need all this tech to make the experience. The reality is you don't need all this tech. You need a decent microphone. You need a decent camera so they can see you, and you need decent lighting. You get that. Typically, every laptop that's out there has enough to get you started in that space. The rest of the experience is you bringing the energy. You not just literally talking for 8 hours at somebody, but bringing in different visuals, giving them exercises. If you're in a group setting, potentially breaking them into smaller groups. All that stuff builds the experience in there. And you don't have to have tech to do all of that stuff. You just need basic tech to get you started.
Yeah, and I talk about this all the time with people, because they always ask me about speaking. They ask me, about the virtual world, and I'm like, look, if you make a tasty burger last week, you know what, you're still going to make the same tasty burger this week. That's how I try to get them to say, it is no different. But instead of talking, instead of talking to people, across the room, you're talking to people across the world. How can that not be just stellar exciting, right?
Oh, it's been amazing. Some of the events that we've run that used to be in person and now are virtual, they went from getting people in just North America to now we've had Africa, New Zealand, and Europe, pretty much every place you can think of. We've had someone join, even people in Australia joining at like 2 a.m. their time for these events. And so the reach has gotten crazy watching that. And it's also come at a lower cost to the companies. And so they've expanded their mission and been able to do it quicker, cheaper, all the stuff we all try to do by utilizing that virtual space.
And when you're working with a client, what are some of the things that you do to actually create an event that's more smooth for them? Because I know that sometimes there is anxiety, with that first event. What are some of the ways that you help them kind of calm them down, to let them know it's going to be okay?
It all starts with the event formula. every event follows a formula. And once you know that formula and you're able to slot in the content that you need, it makes it so much easier for them to be comfortable knowing, how's this event actually going to work? Because when we talk 1-day events or 3-day events, we typically run 3-day events for them. And it feels like this giant thing, but then once we get down to how's the event actually run and start putting in their content pieces, you just watch the relief come across them. It washes across like a huge wave to them, and they're like, oh, that's not as difficult as I thought. And so it's bringing that formula to them, letting them know how the event's going to work, letting them know how the tech side of it's going to actually work to give them that experience, and then making sure they have a long enough runway for the event. There's no way you can come up to me today and go, I want to run a 3-day event into 2 days. Like, there's just not a big enough runway for you to prep everything and market it. And so we make sure they have that runway that's long enough for them to get all the event stuff done so that they are comfortable enough at the end of the day to hit the stage when it's time.
And I think the other area that, really when you're an outstanding back-end company and you're running events, it goes back to the same thing as live events. It's all about the preparation. If you are not prepared, it will come across. And if you are prepared, it will come across, won't it?
Oh, absolutely. And the amazing part is the first time we run an event with a client that's never run one before, they realize that by the end that they only knew about half of the work. Because there's a lot of just small things that do happen behind the scenes. They're not difficult. They're just things that need to happen. Are you remembering to send reminder emails? Did you remember to actually create your high ticket offer page and actually test that it works? Like, simple things that we take for granted that we just see at events and we're like, oh yeah, we got to have that. But you just don't think about those things and what went into it. And so it's just laying all of those pieces out. And remember not to screw around with the formula. This formula has been tried and tested literally the last 20 years. The event formula has not changed for the most part. In person, virtual, it's all the same formula. And people have made millions upon millions of dollars using that formula. And so we always tell clients, don't screw with the formula. Get your event successful, make 6+ figures at your event, and then you can look at what little tweaks can we do to make the event even better. But don't try to do the tweaks right out of the gate before you've run an event and made it successful.
Definitely. So I have your contact information going across. Justin, tell us, are there other ways and other things that you're doing, right now?
Yeah,
so people can get a hold of you.
Yeah, best way to get a hold of me is to email me at justin@letyournerdbeheard.com. I'd love to talk to you about events. If you have not moved into the virtual space, let's have a conversation, whether it's your first event or it's going to be your next event. And I'd love to talk to you about what we can do to help you with that event and to make it successful. So shoot me off an email, justin@letyournerdbeheard.com.
Well, Justin, I want to thank you for being on the show today. It's always, a great pleasure. I feel like, we didn't get to do it today. A lot of times we'd go geek to geek on our talk, but today it was more about, the event itself. So, you took time out to be on the show today, and I want to say thank you for that.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Well, I just want to thank everyone who was able to stay with us on the show today. I wanted to weave a little story from mission to message to our method, which is, getting your voice heard to the world. So I want to thank again, Jet, Michelle, and Justin for being on our show. I want to remind everyone that we are here every Thursday from 2:30 to 3:30 Pacific Standard Time. And of course, we're in this crazy state called Arizona. So I'm sure, at some time frame, we'll be going back to a Mountain Standard Time, but that's okay. Arizonans like to do things differently. It's what keeps us feeling like we're in the Wild West. But until next week, I want to say thank you to everyone who joined us, and I will see you then. Bye-bye.
You've been watching the Iron Entrepreneur Show, a production of the Iron Entrepreneur Radio Network with host Robert W. Jones. Join Robert each week as he visits with new and exciting guests who inspire, teach, and mentor entrepreneurs worldwide. Follow Robert each Thursday at 1:30 p.m. Pacific, 4:30 p.m. Eastern, and 8:30 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time.